Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of the officially licensed Ratchet and Clank Speedrunning Community Podcast. I'm joined by Torbulen
Yo.
to interview the man himself, Fear_SR.
Yo, how are we?
Yo, hello, Fear.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm keen.
Oh no,
Let's get this show on the road.
I'm really hyped for this. I think
a lot of us, working behind the scenes, have been looking forward to this one.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like when we we're deciding the order of the episode, like the people we should have on. Like you were always like one of the first ones that would come up every time.
Man, I get flattered way too hard in this community. I'm just a guy, man. That means a lot. So cheers. No, I mean I just love talking speedrunning. So the moment you message, I was like, get me in there, man. Let me ramble for 2 hours. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, and we can get into it immediately because I think there's a lot to talk about. But let's just start from the basics. So, what got you into speedrunning? How did you start out, and why Ratchet 2?
Man, it's honestly such a blur these days. Like, it's funny to think about the fact that I've been speedrunning Ratchet 2 for 8 years. So it's getting a bit old memory. But I think my speedrunning sort of started pre-speedrunning before I guess I would put a phrase on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take this back further than I think I ever have, but I honestly think it comes from my childhood where I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, and so I was always quite competitive. I wanted to be better than my older siblings, which was usually impossible because you're 6 and they're 9 or whatever. But because of that, I always sort of was competitive, and we played these games as a kid. So even the idea of trying to be better at a video game than someone else was just always something that was in the back of my mind. And then sort of as I got a little bit older and I branched out into my own things, I played a whole lot of Counter-Strike. I was on some teams that played pretty seriously. I never got semi-pro or anything.
Oh, that's cool.
I used to be pretty decent at Counter-Strike, and one of the things I got into in that was bunny hopping. I used to love going on bunny hopping servers and just trying to perfect the movement, because just like in speedrunning now, I'm a big believer that if you're going to try and be good at something, you've got to try and get good at every aspect. You can't just play Counter-Strike and be good at aiming. There's tech there to be done. You can get around the map quicker. Who doesn't want an advantage in a game with very few advantages? Yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, I'm just going to jump in there and get good at that. And I honestly think that's where everything started from, well before Ratchet and Clank,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And this actually reminds me of something that Tor has said before a bunch of times. Especially because, Tor, I think I've heard you talk a bunch of times about bunny hopping as well, Counter-Strike.
Dude, let's go. I've found another one.
I've said many times that bunny hopping is probably the coolest speed tech in any game ever.
I think I agree with that, because it's such an example of a mechanic which requires such a high skill level to be able to do. The slightest mistake and you actually end up being at a disadvantage, not an advantage. Yep. But can give you such an advantage in a tight competitive space. It's the pinnacle of speedrunning, and it's not even what people do. It's so interesting.
You can also get unbelievably creative with it, because you have so much there's so much so many options, how you can take a strafe. There's so much
and
control.
The ways that it can. Yeah, and the way it can change your rotations and It's actually funny enough that we talk about bunny hopping. That's actually where the bunny came from, and how I, for the first several years of my speedrunning, I always had the bunny profile picture. It was because when I was playing Counter-Strike, I always was a bunny because that was my thing. I was always an AWPer. So I sniped, and I would also bunny hop around the place and just break rotation times. It was my whole thing.
That's fucking sick.
You're dropping an insane revelation right now. I didn't know it was that.
Yeah, that's some really old lore that got lost. I mean, I've played ESEA qualifiers and shit on stream in the early days of streaming. So unless like you were in the community early days, you probably don't know that about me. So
Mhm.
it's bit of history there. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Oh, you just You just reminded me. I don't want to interrupt like your your story and stuff, but I just like remember that like I don't remember the first time I saw you run, but it must have been like like 2017. I can't say the year honestly, but I remember like how I found you is that I got one of your like videos in my recommended. I think it was something about Snivelak. It's really a long time ago, and I haven't thought about it since, so it's really hard. But I remember like seeing you play, and I was like, "Yo, okay, this guy seems pretty good." And like at the time, I wasn't like super involved with the community. I was kind of a lurker. I was mainly just like watching Sam and sometimes Ricky play the games. So I wasn't like very active in the community. But I remember like, I just saw you play. I was like, this guy seems really good. Like I think he could go for world record.
That's so funny. I love it when people like I hear the story of people thinking, "Oh, this guy could maybe go somewhere." Like before I was something.
Yeah,
I love that though because like those are the people that supported me through like the early days, and I mean that's such a big part of it, right? I think so many people say they wouldn't get there without the support. So no, that's sick. I love that. I think that must have been like 2018 or 19 because 2017 November I think it was when I first started speedrunning at all.
Yeah.
And then 2018 end of that year was when I started sort of getting good enough to actually create and change the route. Yeah, so that's probably the timeline there, roughly. Yeah, that's sick. I like that.
I want to say I'm a bit curious. How did you like specifically get into RaC 2?
Yeah, so how did I go from bunny hopping into okay, I'm playing Ratchet 2 now? That's it's a bit of a long. It's a big series of coincidences, honestly. To begin with, obviously being in the bunny hopping world and to sort of finish out that bunny hopping part of the story, I was getting to a point where I was pretty good at it. I was usually playing Counter-Strike Source, even though Go was out, but I moved back. And I was getting to the point where I was sort of in the top, like, I got to a point where I was in like top 10 in Oceania, like in terms of like my ranking and different records and shit for bunny hopping. And that's like the initial want to get good and not just get good, but like get competitive. Because I'm very much the person, if I can't get to the point where I'm competitive, it's something I just don't care. Like, I need to be competitive. And at around that point, naturally being in that scene where I'm looking at records and seeing them, you just sort of start to see speedrunning itself pop up in like your YouTube recommended. I think the first one I watched was I think it was actually the Games Done Quick, like 2017 run by Zem or something. I think it was, because it was around this same time where, just completely coincidentally, I was planning to replay the Ratchet games anyway because they were some of me and my brother's games, like favorite games from childhood, and so it was just running through my head. I was like, oh, I'll play some Ratchet, and so naturally, when I see a Ratchet and Clank speedrun pop up in my YouTube recommended, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. And so I did, and I thought it was really sick, and I was like, wow, I want to try and speedrun a game like that because it's really cool to just show that mastery over a game and beat it really quick. But I at that point you'd think I'd go straight into Ratchet, but I was actually pretty intimidated because Ratchet looked really, really hard. And I hadn't played the game in years, and I was always a PC gamer, not even a console gamer. Like I'd barely touched a controller for like between the ages of like 9 and 15. I'd barely touched a controller. So what I actually did was I looked at games that I thought might be similar. So I looked at other games with a similar engine to Counter-Strike, funny enough, and I landed on Quake. And I started learning to speedrun Quake and that whole route. I never actually finished learning how to run Quake. I only learned like the first, I forget what they're split into. It's like 3 levels or whatever, 3 worlds. And I learned like the first world and half the second or whatever. And I just kind of got a bit sick of it. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be, to be honest. I just didn't really enjoy it. And at that point, I'd already been playing through some of the Ratchet games. And I thought, I've just finished replaying Ratchet 2 and Ratchet 3. Why don't I just start speedrunning? And this is the final big coincidence that landed me on RaC 2. I don't know if you guys will believe this, but it was genuinely an accident that I landed on Ratchet 2. Because I remember thinking back to that Zem video and thinking that was sick. And in my head, I thought it was the Ratchet and Clank 2 speedrun. And so I literally just turned on like the world record for Ratchet and Clank 2, started watching from the first planet, and just started following along and trying to do as much as I could. It wasn't until I learnt like a third of the speedrun, I went, hold on, this isn't the same game. But at that point, I'm like, that's just sunk cost fallacy. I was like, well, I've learnt this much, I might as well. And then honestly, the rest of it just sort of stuck from there. Like it was genuinely a series of accidents that got me to Ratchet 2. It just so happens it was the game that I prefer. Genuinely. Bottom of my heart, accidental.
That's pretty funny. There's something you brought up that kind of reminded me of like a discussion there was like last month. Because like you said, you know, when you first like saw like Zem's run, you thought, oh, this game like looks pretty hard to run. And, like, I mean, so first of all, it's kind of funny because like now if we go back to like runs from like 5, even like maybe 3 years ago, we look at them, they're like, damn, like we could do so much better today.
It looks easy comparatively, doesn't it? Like that's just the scaling.
Yeah, it's insane. But also like something that was brought up like last month is like I think I was talking about this with Tor and FRC about like how Ratchet games, like a lot of people going in are like just intimidated by like, you know, the game looking pretty difficult in terms of skill.
Yeah. I've been mauling about this with Isaki for like weeks. It's so annoying to the both of us. We're so tired of the stigma that people have around like Ratchet speedrunning. Even in like the nation, people are very like, they've like been taught almost that like, oh yeah, Ratchet speedruns, that's like the hardest one. So no one wants to even try it.
To an extent, I get where it comes from because a lot of the beginner tech that we have for all of the games, sure, some of them had their exceptions. Like Ratchet 2 always had wall climbing, for example, and first person. Like that was always easy. But for example, Ratchet 3 and Ratchet 1 didn't have easy strats until like the last few years. And so I think it's hard to break a preconception that a lot of like, let's say PlayStation runners already have, for example. And then I think the second thing which makes it a bit harder as well is that it's not actually entirely wrong. Like if you look at a world record, it is correct that PlayStation, Ratchet 2, Ratchet 3, all of the Ratchet games at the highest level are insanely hard. So when someone looks at a world record and that's their introduction, I don't blame them for being intimidated because veteran speedrunners of the Ratchet games are intimidated by Ratchet records. Like they are genuinely hard. And I think that the hard thing with Ratchet is just how different a world record looks compared to like a beginner route. Like if you look at other games, other platformers even, I don't think the difference is so apparent. You don't see like such a difference in route where you're not doing boxies, you're not doing mid-air charges and all this shit, which is very clearly difficult and looks difficult. You know, there might be other platformers. I don't want to name any because I don't know enough about other platformers. I don't want to get hate. But like, you know what I mean? Where it looks hard because it is hard, but it's because you're not seeing the whole story. When you look at a world record, you're not seeing the fact that the mid-air charge I do to save 2 seconds could also just be wall climbed. Like, you know what I mean? So I get it, and I don't really know what you could possibly do to break that stigma, to be honest. That's a really hard one.
Also, to be honest, there's also that stigma of like just casuals just seeing like speedrunners as like gods pretty much. Like just like, oh yeah, we'll never be able to do all of that. Well, like a lot of it just comes to like just learning and just doing the same thing over and over and over and over. And that like something that, you know, when you like learn a game, I think, okay, you can go into it being like, oh yeah, this is gonna get difficult, or like this can be difficult. But like, I think at the end of the day, like pretty much like what you did, like you just start out and like, you know, you try to follow what world record does. If there's something that, you know, seems too hard, you can just like try to do something else that's maybe slower. You don't have to like get world record your first run. That's like something a lot of people are kind of a lot of people are just like afraid of like getting bad times, it seems, when starting out.
Some people don't even like, they do runs, but they like never submit because they're like, they don't feel good about the time that they got, because they think it's gonna be like embarrassing to post it.
Yeah, you see that all the time. Like, people will do these runs, and you'll sort of like ask them like a month later, you won't have heard an update, and you'll say, "Hey, what's your PB now?" And they're like 2 minutes lower, and it's like, why haven't you been posting this? Or even people like, you see it at the top level, there are players that I could name, but I won't, that get records frequently and don't post them because it's not the final one they're going for, and they think it's trash. And I'm like, it's literally world record. Like, that is a objectively piece of history. I don't know. I guess that's just like a difference in mindset, because I've always believed in preservation of history. I don't care how bad my PB is. I'm going to upload every 1 second PB, even if I know I can PB by another 2 minutes. But
yeah,
I have to admit that's something I'm kind of guilty of. Sometimes it's just like, not anymore, but like, you know, when I was like running Suck NG Plus, and I was like, I had world records. Sometimes like I would just get world records like, okay, this is trash. I know I can just get a way better one. So I think like some of my PBs are kind of lost, because like it was just like yesterday I was looking at the sheet, and like I think like there's a lot of them just missing just because I haven't posted them. I'm glad at least I stopped doing that, because especially now I don't PB as often because I'm playing like at a higher level for at least like deadlocked. It's kind of hard for me to PB now because I have to like, you know, get a really good run. So I'm glad, because like even if I PB by like 1 second or like 5 seconds, I'm still glad I PB'd.
Like, that's just like, some people, I mean, it's what you said there, right? It doesn't feel great to PB by a second, because usually if you PB by a second, you're ahead by like 30 and you screw most of it up. That's the most common story, right? So I get it. People are just like, well, it's the same run, right? And it's like, well, is it? Like, because it's the whole story. But I don't know. I can't blame them. I just always err on the side of, you know, preservation being really key.
Yeah. So, okay, to get back to your story, I guess. So, you started like out with RaC 2, I guess, out of a coincidence, which is pretty funny actually. But how did you get to world record level, and what were like the highlights to you?
Oh, God, break down 8 years of some of the best times of my life into less than 2 hours. Here we go. That's a great question, though. I mean, I guess I think what people got to realize is that no one who ever gets to world record level, I shouldn't say no one, I should speak for myself. It's not like I started speedrunning Ratchet 2 and I was like, I'm going to get world record. Ironically, even though I did say I don't like doing things at a low level, I didn't actually ever start running Ratchet 2 and go, yeah, I'm going to play this until I get world record, you know? Like, I learned how to run it and I was like, oh, I'd like to get this time. And originally, I think I set my goal at 35 minutes or something. Keep in mind, when I started running, the world record was like 27, I think it was, in no IMG, which was obviously my main category. And I set my goal out to 35, and then I guess it just happened a lot quicker than I expected. Like, I think I got 35 in like 6 days or something. It just didn't make me happy because it wasn't as hard as I wanted it to be. And so I was like, all right, well, I mean, if it was that easy, I might as well just keep going. And I just sort of kept on getting the time a lot quicker than I expected. Like, sure, originally you PB a few times in a day, and then once every 2 days, and then once every week or whatever. But within a month, I'd already gotten my time down to my big goal. Like, when I first started speedrunning, I was like, oh, I don't think I'll get this game under 30 minutes. And within a month, I was under 30 minutes. And in that time, world record went down. But within a month, I was like plus, I think, 3 minutes on world record. And at that point, I'm just having so much fun, right? I'm playing this game every single day after school, every waking minute. Even before school, I was waking up early to just play this game. Like, I was addicted, man. And I think that's really all it is. Like, after I started running RaC 2, I realized that I'd found my thing. Like, you know, when you get into a hobby and you expect it to be fun, sure, but you don't quite realize how much of a life-altering decision that first time you committed to it was.
Absolutely.
Like for
I
me,
know that feeling.
It's the best feeling in the world, right? Like you wake up one day and you realize, oh my god, I've been playing this game every day for a month, and I didn't even know if I was going to play it on the first day I played it. Like, you know, and then from there, I just kept on playing. I kept on setting a new goal, and eventually, I got closer and closer and closer to the point. I forget when I got my first world record was. I think my first record was in the 24s. So I was at that period where Zem and Scotto were still competing, and they kept on. They had their little mini beef. They're good friends now, of course, but they had their beef, and they kept on pushing it down and down and down. It was so annoying because I was like this guy that was. I just started playing within the last like 6 months or year by this point, but I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and I'd kept on getting these times, and I was like, man, 4 months ago this was world record, and I would be like +2 on world record. I was like, what the hell is this? So that was a really weird feeling, but I also think it was the perfect way to start because it showed me in real time that the goalpost can move. And I think that's an incredibly important lesson to learn for speedrunners. The ideal time right now might be awful in, you know, even a week's time if something crazy gets found, right? Or it's someone better than you comes along and just does better, right? Like, if you look at the world records from that time period I'm talking about, 25 right now, the record's 10 minutes under that. I would be gobsmacked and upset if I got a time even close to that right now on a no reset. Like, that's just how the goalposts move. And so I think because that kept on happening, it just kept on exciting me to keep on playing. And of course, I was lucky enough to speedrun Ratchet 2, I think, in what I would say was the first golden age of Ratchet 2, where it stopped being the easier Ouya and moved into its own identity, where decoys were being used and charge tech was becoming a bit more, it wasn't first person everywhere. So I think not only did I love the game, I also started running at the perfect time for someone to just get hooked and just love it. Like, I just think that's, again, pure luck at the time I started running. Even down to the fact that I was like in year 9, I think I was at school. And so, sure, things were heating up, but I had a lot more time than most people to just sink into just playing this game. So, that's sort of that initial period from starting up to getting near world record, but not quite getting there. And I guess to sort of wrap an actual answer to you, it's hard to look past the first time I got record. But I don't actually think that was my biggest highlight. I think my biggest highlight was actually my second world record, because when I first got world record in no IMG, I got a 24-22. I beat Scotto by, I don't think it was a huge margin. I think it was 10 seconds or something. I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't huge. And Scotto hadn't played the game for 6 months. He was honestly pretty good, and he genuinely stepped back because he wanted me to get to that level. And that's what I'm talking about when I say support. He stepped back and didn't get 23 so that I could get close. And that is something that at the time, I was actually a little annoyed about, because I was like, I want to beat you on my own merit. But now, from the same perspective, I get exactly what he was doing and why he did it. And I'm so grateful for it in hindsight, because I got that taste of record. But then the goalpost moved, because he had a relay the next week. And within a few days of me getting my first world record, Scotto had it back. And then within another 2 days of playing to get ready for the relay, he got the world's first 23. So I went from, in 6 months of him not playing, I got on top of the world and then crushed, beaten to 23 in like a week. And that is a life-changing experience there, where you're like, I am the best. And then 2 days later, you're like, I am literally nothing. Like, the absolute flip-flop of emotions that I experienced in those couple of weeks was really hard to deal with. And I think off memory, I did actually take a couple of weeks off from playing after that, because it was heartbreaking. But naturally from that, I came back and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I was like, I don't care. I'm not letting Scotto get me. And I pushed, and I got, after like I think it took me another 6 months of playing to get it back. But I did eventually get 23:45. I beat the world record again. I got the second ever 23. Actually, it took me 2 23s to do it. I didn't even get it the first try. And then from there, I didn't lose world record again in no IMG until PS3 was found faster. like I just got hooked from there, and I just kept on playing, and I never stopped, and I never looked back, I guess. So like that, I think for me, that's got to be the big highlight, because it could have easily been the end. You know, I got my record, I could have stepped away, I could have let Scotto just, you know, put me in the dust, but I was like, nah, I'm not accepting that, and I came back, and that made it probably the I think I have to say it's the highlight of my career in speedrunning. Yeah, it was a brilliant moment.
I think I completely get why it is the highlight for me, because I probably would say the same, because honestly, when you see like someone get world record and like, you know, there's competition, it just turns into like a table tennis match of like, you know, who just like throwing the ball back. Okay, so I got like 23, now you have to get 22. So I got 22, now you have to get 21. A lot of times we've seen people get world record and nobody comes back to claim that record. And honestly, I don't want to say that's like, you know, bad, because I mean, obviously, like if the other person just can't play, that's up to them, like whatever. But whenever like there's been like something like that with like two people competing for a world record, it's always like super exciting to watch. And you know, when I was in that place back in 2021 with Jasper, you know, I was like a new player. I got the first sub 30 in the game. And like, you know, like this guy who was playing like the game for like way longer than me just got like a slightly faster time. And I was like, damn, okay, I guess it's over. Like, okay, I just like hopped on, I got world record, and I mean, I guess I could leave, but you know, I didn't leave. I was like, I mean, I got world record once. How hard can it be to just, you know, keep going and, you know, get a faster time? And that was the best decision, I think. Unironically, one of the best decisions in my life, because if I left there, like, I wouldn't be here right now, first of all. But
true.
Pretty much it was just like 2 months of just me and Jasper trading world record minute after minute. And I remember how insane it was that like, so I would get the time, and then it would just get like a slightly faster time by a few seconds, but I would always be the one breaking minute barriers. And then when I just, you know, got tired of the game, it took him like, I think like 4 months to actually beat my time, until like, you know, like I came back like last year.
I think I really think you touched like the nail on the head multiple times there, where like the first part which really got me, what you said was like, when you made the decision to not quit, right? When you finally get it, and then you get beaten again, and you're like, oh, for God's sake, I worked so hard for this, right?
Yeah.
And I think everyone that does make that decision and realizes like, no, I'm going to keep going, has realized the same thing, which is that's when you unlock like real speedrunning. Like real speedrunning is not the right way to put it, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's a whole new game. Like, there's speedrunning and getting to the point of world record. And there's so many people that I think like to change games or like to trade different categories and never quite get there. You know, they get really good at a lot of categories and they don't actually push for that record. And so often I just wish they would, because it changes the way you view things so much. You get it and you realize, I think once you become that top dog for a second, it's not like you did it with a perfect run. You're suddenly realizing like, oh, these records have time to push, and your whole mindset changes just like that. And suddenly you're pushing time down, and that world record is going down by heaps. And, you know, you and someone else are the one pushing it. Like, I think if more people just took that committing, rather than getting a minute out and then stopping, but just took that little bit of extra time to push to world record level and try and get over the cusp, they'd realize exactly what you're talking about, right? Because that is just like, the whole way I approached speedrunning changed after that. I stopped, you know, requiring someone else to approve of everything. And I started just saying, well, okay, I can make this route, you know, and that's like when it gets crazy. And then the second thing you said, which really, really resonated with me, was like the competing. Because at the end of the day, it's speedrunning. You're on a leaderboard, you're competing with people, right? Like, that's half the point. But it's so rare to get two people that are not just at the top level at the same time, but are actually evenly matched. Right? To have two people that can, as you say, you were trading world records like ping pong for 3 months. That doesn't happen. Like, in fact, I don't think I've had that happen ever. I've had it one time with like the start of the BL mod no IMG, sort of fight, but usually one player is further ahead than the other for even a 6-month period. To truly trade them is an experience I've only had one time, and it was recently. And you're 100% right. That's like a whole different ball game again. It's like so much fun to just be pushing each other and wake up every day and you're like, the first thing I was doing was like checking the Discord. Shit, did I get beaten while I slept? You know, like it's such a different feeling. But yeah,
I remember it's really exciting when like the BL mod where records were happening from OMG. That was really cool. And also I think there's also like something of just like beginners, just like, I mean, this sounds like some made up like shit or something that you read like on on a Facebook blog or whatever. But like, I think there's just like a lot of potential to just people like, setting their mind to do something, then actually like, just their actual speedrunning abilities, because you just have to like, get into it slowly, and you might be still, maybe you're new, but you still have like the chance of becoming one of the best. And I think I can safely say that when like in this call we literally have like a guy who's like in the like not even a year ago, like probably the best Ouya run ever fucking recorded. And at the end of the run, it was like, oh yeah, that's pretty good.
It's so true. Classic reaction.
It was a pretty good run, I'd say.
Yeah.
That
run is insane.
I really wanted to ask you. I've been curious. You have a really unique situation, I think, in that you played, obviously Ouya being your game, and of all the Ratchet games, I think if we're all honest, Ratchet 3 is the one which is the prestigious one, the one which has the most history behind it. For multiple reasons, Zem being the main pusher, or the fact that the speed tech came from. Like, there's so many reasons for it to be the case. And even in the last, 5 years, to go from Zem being dethroned to like 3 fresh world record holders, like that game has only gotten harder and more prestigious. How did you feel trying to come into that? Hey, push over the barrier and then say, you know what? I think this game can go lower than what every other incredibly talented player has gone before me. Like, what was that top push for you like?
I'm gonna be honest. When I started out, I had not even a single like intention of like getting to a world record level. It was literally just I start out. I'm like, okay, let's try and aim for like a decent sub 30 time to start with. I got that pretty fast, and I was like, okay, that was fun. Let's try and aim higher. And you just like you keep going, and you start to realize like, wait a minute, why not just go all the way? Like once you just get close enough, you kind of like, wait, what? It's just like one more step after some point. I feel like that progression is like what just kept me going. It was also like at the time I was playing on HDD for like a very long time, because I again, even at that point, I still thought that there's not much point in me going for an SSD, because I never thought, I still didn't have the thought of like committing to getting to a record level, but I was actually a lot closer than I thought, because like pretty soon after I switched over, I actually was like really close to getting there. And I mean, the final push honestly was just like finding boxes. That gave me a massive advantage. But I think even now, I can still keep up.
I feel like you're underselling yourself, because not only did you save all the time that boxies had to save, but like you then took that record and pushed it as low as it could go. Like, that's a different mindset entirely. Like, at what point did you flip your brain from going, yeah, I can get world record, to like, I can do a time that no one else is even thinking about?
I don't know if I believe that I can get a time that no one else can get.
I'd say when you got your sub 21, for example, I guess that's kind of what I'm referring to, where it's like, it was a time that nobody was thinking about. Like, I remember like every time you talked about going for sub 21, there was someone in the chat being like, nah, that shit's impossible. Just like straight up just saying it to your face, like that shit's impossible. And then of course you fucking went and did it. Like, I guess that's what I'm talking about. Like, when did you flip from I'm just gonna get world record to like, yeah, I could be the first one to break that barrier, that impossible barrier.
Yeah, I just think I never did. It just kind of like happened. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, wait, yeah, this is possible, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's kind of funny.
No, that's really interesting. I wanted to ask you that because I was honestly sort of baiting you into a trick question there because I'm the same. I've had people ask me that question before, and I've said the same thing where I'm like, I don't really remember a time where it flipped. You sort of just wake up one day and you have the only sub 21.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just such a weird feeling.
It was the same with like the NG Plus one. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get a 3x. So my goal the entire time was just getting out a good 4x. And then boom, you just get a 39 or whatever the fuck it was. Just like that.
I'm looking at it now, 39. Bloody gorgeous, man.
Yeah, that run is insane.
It is like, it's a disgustingly good run. Because like, I think 2 minutes in, it's basically like, it's basically calm goals for the rest.
That's absolutely insane. I hate how good that run is because every single run I've done ever since you did that run, I've been like, nah, Torbs was better than that. God damn it. That ain't run of the year material anymore. Like, I feel like you've genuinely, like, I'm glazing you so hard right now, but I genuinely think you've raised the bar of Ratchet speedruns with that run because every run that gets considered like run of the year or whatever has to go past the pass of, well, is it better than Torbs 739? Because at the moment, I can't think of a single run that's better than that. And I don't know if we'll see one for a while, honestly.
I can't either. But I will say, one thing I've been hoping for ever since is I want to see someone beat it. Like, yeah, the run is cool and all, but like, imagine what it would look like to beat that record. Now that's something that interests me. Because you can have a record and it's like, okay, yeah, this feels good for me, right? I like having record. But it's also like, okay, but at some point you kind of just like stop caring. It actually goes pretty fast, I feel, recently. Like when I got first world record, I was kind of ecstatic for like a week. But then it kind of dies down and I'm like, okay, well now what? I need someone to take it so that I can get my will and drive back to like keep pushing it.
Oh yeah, because I think like especially like having a run that good, you're just like, who do I compete with? You just kind of have to push it yourself, but at the same time, like, you know, is that something that you really want to do when that run is just like insanely good to begin with?
No, I'd rather let someone else do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the thing is there, you know how hard it is to get that run, and you think about going past that, and it's like, oh my god, and that's always like the trap. No, I think you're so right there. Like, I remember when I was pushing for the 16 in BL mod, and I was like, don't get me wrong, I wanted to be the first guy with 16, and no matter what, I wanted to be the guy that ended up with the best time. But there was that part of me that actually wanted Emerald or Robo to get there first, or Sneepy or Eli, because I was like, it was part of me losing motivation because I was like, I mean, if I get this and I'm the first one again, what's going to happen? Like, oh, I got the minute barrier again. I know what happened the last 4-minute barriers I got. I took a 6-month hiatus, like, you know, and it's sort of like the more minute barriers I got, the more I struggled to almost enjoy it because I know what comes next. Like, I enjoy playing this game. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody loves banging their head against a brick wall, you know? And I think particularly now that, like, obviously I've grown up, I'm not in high school anymore. I work a full-time job or overtime. I don't have the time to sink into getting a perfect 15. Like, do I sit there and know that it could theoretically be a bit better? Yeah. But I'm almost annoyed because I know that I've got a good enough run that it's sitting out of reach of everyone else for a good 6 months until they catch up. And then if they beat it, I'm like, okay, I'm glad they've caught up. But at the same time, my sobs are like 40 seconds faster than anyone else's. And so it's really hard for me to sit here and be like, yeah, I feel like playing no IMG. I don't. And I mean, that's why I haven't been playing for like the last 6 months. So that's sort of like the duality of records. Do I love that run? Yes, did I love getting it so much? Had a great time. But now that I've got it, I'm like, as you say, like, what's next? Like, I tried going for the 5 in NG Plus, didn't enjoy that. Like, that killed me, man.
Yeah.
And so you sort of get there, and it's this really weird feeling where it's like the category that you love and have loved playing for the past however long, 6 months. Suddenly you wake up one morning and you're like, what am I going to do today? And I always find it really hard to like get back into my other hobbies after I've finished a grind, because I'm like,
Yeah.
shouldn't I be playing Ratchet 2 right now? Shouldn't I be practicing? Like, shouldn't I be doing the right thing?
I just remember feeling empty sometimes.
Which is not what you
Like-
expect to feel after a record.
It's like weird because it's like I still have the drive. I want to push it, but I feel like there's nothing to push. I guess it's like
Or it's that feeling of like, I could push it, and I know that if I just sink runs into it, like, I guess to say exactly how I'm feeling, because I know people are going to ask me. People have asked me, and to just get it out of the way so that I've got an on the record public statement about how I feel about it. Could I get BL Mod 15? 100%. I'm certain that I could get that. I've got 38 seconds to work with on subs. That'd be an incredible run. Probably the best run of my life. I know that I have the skill level to do it, but I also know that it would take me playing like every spare minute I have for the next year to do. And now that I'm 22 and I've got a partner and I'm saving for a house and I'm living life, it's hard for me to want to go for the grind unless I know that it won't be, I guess, that grindy. I'm like, oh, okay, I can do it for 3 months and get my time. Cool, sick. But it's really hard for me to sit here and be like, yeah, I want to play this game and probably achieve nothing, 360 days out of the year to one day get that time. Like, that used to excite me, the idea of playing every day to eventually push it, because I had the time to get into it. Whereas now I'm like, that actually just makes me kind of sad, and that's why I'm not doing it.
Like, I think like with stuff like this, it's kind of weird because like there's like this one game or like this one category you just like kind of got really good at, like you got super passionate about, but then you kind of like just hit all the goals that you had for it, and then it's just like, okay, so like I guess I'm done with this. And the grind itself was like, the actual fun, because when you get the time you really wanted, then like you can't just have to stop playing, because like where do you go from there? That's also another thing, because it just like becomes up to you if you want to push it for like months and months and just like start like shaving microseconds. Or like personally, what I just like started doing when I kind of hit my goal with a category, just like just kind of started moving to another game. And right now I'm kind of completely in love with Deadlocked, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But I know that like at some point I'm gonna probably get really good at no LC, and I'll just be like kind of stop caring about it in a way, because I've kind of hit all the goals. I went from SAC, which looking back to it, it wasn't that fun, to In Some Mind. Then from that I just went to Deadlock, and now I'm just like, I don't know what will be next, but I guess like I guess we all like mold or like get mad at runs, but I think at the end of the day,
hard not to when Ratchet is this BS, right? My God.
Yeah,
brutal series.
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, that's kind of like the really the actual part you're looking for, to just like grinding it, pushing yourself. After you get like the record, or like whatever time you wanted to get, you kind of have to shift the goal in some way, because otherwise it kind of feels like you achieve nothing in a way. Like, you know what I mean?
100%. I mean, what you're getting at there is sort of like, and what sticks out to me is that at the end of the day, you're a speedrunner, so you've hit your goal, and you're like, well, the level, there's a trade-off where it's like the enjoyment versus monotony sort of hits a point where the ratio is no longer worth it, and so like, I'll just play my next game. I think what's hard for me, and what I struggle with And I think this really explains a lot of my decisions to people that don't understand why I don't just go and play other games like Todd or Ouya or anything. I wouldn't call myself a speedrunner. I don't actually think, after having played a lot of other speed games, I don't actually think that I enjoy the process of speedrunning that much. I enjoy the process of playing Ratchet 2, specifically Ratchet 2 no IMG at a really high level, and like learning new things about it, making new strategies, and then playing with those strategies to play a good run. But every time I've gone to play other speedruns, like after records, for example, it's never lasted more than a week because I'm like, well, it's just not as fun as RaC 2. And if it's not as fun as RaC 2 and I'm not enjoying RaC 2 right now, then why would I do any speedrunning at all?
That makes sense.
Which is like such a weird realization when you've been a speedrunner for like 8 years, and then someone goes, "Do you enjoy speedrunning?" It's like, oh, not really. Like, I love speedrunning Ratchet too, but like, if you asked me to do a 12-hour challenge and learn a game, I'd be like, oh god, really? Like, I don't want to sit down for 12 hours and speedrun a game. I could maybe, if something was found tomorrow for no IMG, then I'm sure I could degen for 12 hours, but if someone asked me to play 12 hours of any other game and learn it and speedrun it in a day, I'd just be like, bugger off. I don't want to do that. Like, the process doesn't excite me like it used to.
I will say something I kind of started appreciating more is I've always been kind of like of the same mindset of like, I'm not really a speedrunner. I don't like to like learn games and stuff, or like, just like to speedrun them. But something just like started appreciating more is just like doing that with friends, because it's kind of like really funny. And there's something like recently, me, Izaki, Sin, Tor as well, we just started like learning a bunch of like Spyro games, like the really like low rated ones, and just like speedrunning them.
Okay, but you've been doing it for a bit. I've been actually trying to like learn Spyro 1 and 2.
Yes, okay, but aside from that,
you're playing the slop games.
Okay, but you played Shadow Legacy. You played the like lowest rated one in the series.
Yeah, and we actually put effort into it.
Yes.
I feel like I'm between mum and dad fighting right now.
No, but it's like so cool, like seeing, for example, Eternal Night, which is by like a lot of people consider like one of the worst Spyro games. Like, we went in, and it was like a casual playthrough, like slightly faster, and Izaki just hopped on that game for like 6 months now, and now like you just like look at it around, and it's like this crazy like movement tech every like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
it's insane how much that game changed.
And he's like out of bounds like all the time.
Yeah, no, that game completely shifted, and I think there's like some enjoyment out of that. Like, that's also like another way of like moving the goalpost to me. It's kind of like, exploring, like kind of like putting effort into like, something that needs it, not necessarily because like out of love. Because I think when people like grind the game, or they try to go for world record or whatever, a really good time, it's usually just out of love for the game. I think you can, in this case, you can just kind of like move the goalposts out of like, curiosity. You can just be like, wow, I wonder what happens if like this game nobody plays and nobody cares about and nobody's ever gonna do rounds of. What happens if I actually just start caring about it? I look into it and just like try to turn into like an actual like speed game that people could enjoy. You're just putting the foundation for someone that actually cares about the game. That could be like, this like pretty much someone who feels the same way you do for RaC 2, and just like start completely obliterating all the times on the boards.
Yeah.
There's something really raw as well about, like, even though I say I'm not a speedrunner, I mean, exactly what we're talking about there. Ever play that random browser game that some friend recommends and you find yourself playing it for the next 3 days trying to beat, like, you'll find some crazy ways to glitch it. I think there's that, like, primal urge in all speedrunners to just break every game you play.
Yes.
Like, I just can't help it. Like, I just want to find all the little glitches and break it and crush it down in my hands, like it's 100% right. So much
super fun. But I guess to get back on track, so you kind of mentioned like a bit of this, because like now we have BL mod and stuff, but like what's your take on old RaC 2 when you started out, compared to like what we have now with BL mode. And I guess like especially for no IMG or like even NG Plus, what do you think? Where do you think the game could go next? Even in terms of strats.
Oh wow! Oh, you let me get my conspiracy theory head on. I like it. I'll touch on NG Plus in a moment because I have some interesting thoughts about it. But for no IMG, it's interesting how my standard, because I've developed with no IMG, my standard for what makes a good category has changed so much. If I now, with my current skill set, saw a game like 2017 Ratchet 2, and I looked at the no IMG run from 2017, excuse me, I'd like 100% wouldn't play it. I'd look at that, I'd look like, oh my god, that's boring, and I wouldn't touch it. But I guess that's the development of speed games over the past 10 years. Every game on the planet is way more optimized than it was 10 years ago. Yeah. So that's sort of what we're talking about before, with it being harder to approach speedrunning these days because everything's harder now. But I do genuinely think that 2017 RaC 2 is boring. Like, I wouldn't do it. Whereas over the years, it's developed and gotten more and more exciting and more fun to play. And I think that current RaC 2 is golden age. I really do. I think that no IMG on BL mod is the greatest experience you can have running a Ratchet game. It is just absolutely incredible, both because of RaCman as a tool and just the lightning speed loads of a PS3 with all of the movement of Black Label. It is just an absolutely incredible time. It was like the first thing that made me, in a few years now, really want to keep playing, even though it's an unofficial version. Like, ever since PS3, I guess this is sort of a midpoint for this question, but ever since PS3 got found to be quicker, my love for this game really sort of got like tested, because I didn't like how PS3 played. Yeah. I really don't like how PS3 played. It takes all of the things that I find exciting about RaC 2, like the fluidity and the way that you can do anything and just flow. And sure, don't get me wrong, you can do some of that, but like you can just fly through the air and jump and like then turn it right into like a decoy turn or whatever. Like, it's so fluid on Black Label, and that just isn't true on PS3. And so even though I had like times I could have gotten 18 on PS2 years ago, and I just didn't because I didn't care, right? Mm-hmm. It was really unfortunate. But then the moment Black Label mod came out, the route was already there. I already loved it, the way modern RaC 2 plays. And then BL mod just took all of that amazing stuff and just made the experience better again. Like, it really is an incredible time, and I recommend everyone try it. It is so much fun. Even people that like have tried RaC 2 in the past and are thinking about trying it again, now's the right time. Like, no IMG, Black Label mod, even APB Black Label mod, like, it is just such a good time. And if you're talking about the game itself, like the route, really cool. I mean, lab skip, woo patch skip, nuke storage skip. So some of the BS stuff is out and replaced with actually skill expressive strats that you can do, not just like some random frame perfect which has lag either side, so it's basically RNG, right? Like, it's so much fun, and every planet can be an expression of your style and your skill, and you can push it exponentially further every day. In terms of NG Plus, I have some really mixed feelings on it. I think NG Plus goes through cycles. The better we get at NG Plus, it goes through cycles of no IMG and NG Plus being the harder category. Right now, NG Plus is the harder category. And unfortunately, when NG Plus is the harder category, it's also not fun because it's usually like dice rolls. I feel like right now, to go for 5, like, I have 20 seconds to play with. In terms of the actual execution, it's easy. But like, I play execution-wise, assuming the dice rolls, I'm confident that I will play within 8 seconds of my sobs every time. Like, I know that my execution is that good, but everything's a dice roll, so it's just not fun. Whereas like a year ago, where it wasn't so dice rolling and everything was consistent, it was a great category. I loved it. I would have pushed it to the ends of the earth, right? And I did. I pushed it down to like 707, when that was like the best time we could theorize before 6 was even looked at. Like, and that's the unfortunate truth of NG Plus. I mean, short categories have that story in every game. You know, they get fun and they're not fun, and then fun and then not fun, depending on the strats. there was a follow-up part to that question. What do I
Yes.
think about what will happen in the future? I when I talk about this question, I always think about like what I would consider to be the holy grail, right? If we look back at the last 7 years, we found a lot of the holy grails. You know, like if you asked me in 2017, what would I have said? I would have said more movement tech to be able to do things midair charges. Hello, that's why I looked into it, because I had that idea. And then I would have said something to do with the ship levels to either skip them or make them quicker. Well, hello, Whoopash skip. And also Feltz and nuke storage skip exists. The fact that that exists is insane. That's like such a holy grail thing. It's not even one that you think about, right?
Mhm.
Everyone just thought about alternate Feltz and strats. So that already exists. Obviously, the lap skips exist. I guess what I would like and what I would like to see that would make it more interesting, I think the continue point system is probably something that we can abuse. I always think back to like, what if you could get the coords on Smolg to successfully complete the cutscene, but make it just ignore all your continue points and then just death abuse straight back to ship? Something like that, right? Like some form of abusing continue points to just break levels, to turn every planet into no-tack. I honestly think that if that is true, it would be maybe boring because every planet's just movement and then no backtracks. But not too many backtracks would be cut out, I suppose. There's like 3 or 4, but we'd have to see with however it looked, basically, if it happened. Otherwise, I genuinely think that it's like such a optimized strategy. I think we've shown in the Ratchet games that there's a lot of ways to break the speed cap and a lot of ways to shoot yourself across planets. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the future we find some way applicable in no-IMG, like packless, to just shoot yourself across maps. And I think logically speaking, that has to be some development. If it exists, it'll be quicker, sort of thing. So that reigns through the back of my head. But honestly, looking at everything else, I genuinely think that no-IMG is like such a well-routed category. Mobius and I talk a lot about route theory, like what is an optimal planet, and it's like, well, moving in the shortest possible line to every objective you must complete, skipping as many as physically possible, of course, but every objective that is required, moving there as the speed limit or as close to as you can in the straightest line you possibly can. But when you look at the no-IMG route, because I've had that theory for the past 6 years, the planets are pretty damn close to that. Like, honestly, I look at a lot of those planets and I don't know what we could do short of just Taz strats. Like, sure, you could find a way to ghost Ratchet maybe more consistently. That rings at the back of my head. There's something you could do to save time to obviously uncap charge boots and go through walls and whatnot, but that seems unlikely. Like, I think you see the point where I'm trying to like, to think of anything that could possibly happen in IMG right now, you have to spitball so crazy. I guess the last somewhat realistic one would be an Aranos 2 clank section skip. I think that's somewhat feasible. We've seen some sort of weird things, like Robo had that one file where it was just like broken and it skipped it for some reason. Like, there's some really weird clips from the Ratchet history that we just don't understand and could easily lead to like the next big thing, but we don't understand enough about the game yet. And I think Clank Section's got to break. I mean, we keep on getting better and better and better. Clank Section's gone down from a 1.5 minute split, 1 minute 40, down to 50 seconds. Like, what else is going to give, sort of thing? It's got to keep giving somewhere. So, outside of that, like, man, I have no idea. Like, what are we going to stop ship levels from loading entirely? Because other than skipping planets like ship levels, I don't see how we can actually save much time on a lot of these planets. They're such optimized lines, and the movement is incredibly thoroughly researched. Like, yeah, it's hard to know where it goes, which I guess that's the very reason why I haven't been playing it a whole lot, just because, like, I guess I've exhausted my creativity with this game. I can't think of anything else I can do with this route. I've given it my all, you know.
Yeah, a lot of major skips that were just like thought of as like, you know, impossible have been like found, and the strat hunters and routers like worked on the, like, especially the no IMG route, like, all their efforts really paid off, because I think the route right now is in a perfect state, in a really good state. There are definitely things that can be, there's like possibilities for like new things that can be found, but like as of right now, it's like in a great state. And I'm someone who's like, I really like RaC 2 speedruns, but I don't like necessarily like playing the game, because, well, I'm more of like a deadlock guy, but also like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right for me. But I've always it's always been like my favorite games. I started like watching that as the first like speed game pretty much I've ever watched, and I've kind of like follow it throughout the years and stuff. And it's kind of surreal, like just the state no IMG is in, and people who want to like play RaC 2, I think this is the best time ever probably to hop on. BL mod just adds to that as well, just like the ability of getting the best out of PS3 and PS2, just like merging it together. I think that's great.
Like the route also has so many things that are beginner friendly as well at the moment. Like there's so many alternatives. Like you can come in, you can cut out the midair charges and you'll only lose 20 seconds. You can come in and not do some of the other frame perfects and you'll only lose 10 seconds. Like, I mean, Sneepy showed he did a pretty consistent route. I think you could learn the route Sneepy did to get to like 18. Probably from day one. It might be hard. You might make a few changes, but that route's pretty approachable. And then the rest of it's just getting better and more optimized the movement. Like as you say, it's an incredibly good jumping off point at the moment where some of the really stupid stuff just doesn't exist. Obviously, lap skip's a big thorn in the side of the route, but you don't have to do lap skip. Honestly, you can just not do it. So
I kind of want to throw like a bit of a controversy. Hopefully the other mods won't silence me. But I wanted to ask, what do you think about the whole BL mod discourse? Should it be allowed? Should boards get merged or whatever?
Yeah, look, it's a really hard situation. I've had every single opinion you can have about this at different times. I originally was a believer that it should never be mainboard. And then I was a believer that it should be mainboard as soon as possible. And then I was a believer that it should stay split. And at the moment, I'm not really sure how I feel. I think it was always a question of the leaderboards are sort of fake anyway, as some people like to say. They're only a representation of a strict set of rules, and people should play the game how they want to. But the leaderboards are a great way of getting people into the community. And if the main way that people are playing the game is this version, and the other versions are like sleeper and dead and not being played, then like, why would you push the non-played versions as like, the main thing? Because that's just going to not draw activity to the community, right? It's going to make it look like it's a dead community when it's not.
Yeah.
Which is so hard for me, because it's like, well, do you really want to push a modded version as like the main version on an official board? Maybe not. But do you want to split it? Again, maybe not. That's dull. I've heard the idea floated around of like official versus BL mod as like a split. That could be somewhat interesting, but again, you're getting a bit convoluted, aren't you? Like, none of these solutions are super clean. I think the reality is it's not an official version. There's always going to be people that disagree with it being anywhere at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think no matter what the decision, it has to be a decision which encourages the activity, or rather, encourages people that are exterior. So, for example, people going on speedrun.com for the first time.
Oh, absolutely.
To see the version which is getting played. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, BL mod, at least for the NG Plus categories, is the future. It is the current. It is the past. Like, nobody good is playing anymore on the old versions. The competition. You look at No IMG. Have we ever had 5 people competing for top 2 spots, even world record at the same time ever? No, right?
No.
Because the player base has been split. Whereas all of a sudden, within a couple of months of BL mod existing, there was 5 of us playing for the first 16, like at the same time, and it was people that never competed before because like they were on different versions, and that was really exciting. So when I look at it like that, I think it should be mainboard. That's my blunt answer. I think we should have some sort of method of displaying it, whether it's a split where we go official, unofficial. I do actually think that's probably the best solution at the moment, because that still preserves history. And I think at the end of the day, the world record history, when we look at it from 5 years from now, is going to reflect what the most popular version is anyway. And if that's BL mod, then what's the point of like pretending it's not? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're right though in the case of a lot of people, like the way they get into like speedrunning is like, they just like look up on speedrun.com like, world record pretty much. I don't know, is PS3 or whatever like really what we wanna like showcase? And not necessarily, like, again, it's a hard decision. There's like a lot of arguments like in favor of merging the boards or like whatever, and a lot just like that don't really favor it at all. But I think either way, I think we should just like keep showing that this is the version that we want to play. It's pretty much, let's be honest, it's the best version to play because, and that's objectively a fact, I think, because if you're playing on PS3, there's a lot of stuff you can just miss, and the same is PS2. So I think BL mode, just like being able to merge like kind of the two worlds together, it just opens up like a whole new like set of possibilities. Whatever like we're gonna end up doing with this, because at some point, let's be honest, we need to like do
Make
something about this. Yeah, we need to do like an official decision. We're gonna have to do something about this, but either way, I think we should keep showing that this is the version that's at the moment like the best, even if it's modern and stuff. Let's be honest, what's considered officially speedrunning? It's
nothing we do is official.
Exactly.
Like the only part where I disagree is the idea of like it being everyone's favorite version. There are people that don't like it as much. I mean, I can name one, Mantidia, right?
Oh, like, yeah. No.
And I get the reasons. And I actually don't necessarily disagree with them for things like APB. I haven't played them, so I can't have a strong opinion on it. But I think if we were, one of the biggest things which stops me from wanting to make it like mainboard this very second is that I don't think the mod's finished at the moment, in the sense that there's a lot of things where I think the community pretty much unanimously agreed, like, we would like it to bring everything from Black Label mod, and it just doesn't at the moment. Like, it doesn't patch Lancer, it doesn't patch Bouncer, it doesn't patch like a bunch of other things that have changed.
Absolutely.
It'll never change clipping, and some people hate how it feels. I prefer PS2 clipping by a long shot, don't get me wrong. But so like, and I can get why people would like that. And even from the sense of like what's displayed, not everyone is against PS3 being like shown on the main boards. I mean, I always was. I thought it looked so boring comparative to RaC 2, like NG plus PS2. I just think it still does. Even with the modern tech, I think it looks so much more dull and flat, and even underexplored, like comparatively. But like, there's always going to be people that disagree, and I guess at some point it's like, well, look at stats. You're not gonna please everyone. I don't know. It's so hard because I don't want to.
I don't know if you straight up said that it's everyone's favorite category. If I did, kind of fucked up. But I guess what I meant is that like, you kind of have to admit that it's like probably the best version of the game that like to do runs on, like just like in terms of stuff like like we said, like the route and stuff.
I also just like it because it's just the most accessible version we'll ever have.
Oh yeah,
like it's not even close unless we get like emulator running perfect, and then everyone can just play RC PS3 for like all their games. Like that'd be great, but like I don't know if I see that happening.
Yeah.
I
guess to ask you another question, which we've talked about RaC 2 and pushing world record. But I want to ask you like a question more about the people you interacted with over the years. Like, what's I guess your take on the community? Like, how do you feel being part of it?
I love it. I mean, I wouldn't still be here if I wasn't, right? Like if I didn't enjoy the community, I would still be interacting with it. I mean, look, every community has their Debbie Downers that no one wants to talk to, but they get shunned out pretty quick. As a whole, this community is incredible. The average experience in this community is going to be a good experience, and I think that goes true for a lot of PlayStation speedruns. I mean, like, I've made some incredible friends that even if I don't talk to them as much these days, like in certain parts of Australia, if I ever visit, I'll be visiting friends that I've made through speedrunning. Like the amount of times that I've just spent entire weekends, and I'm saying like, I'm talking 12 hours a day, 2 days in a row, just talking to the same 3 or 4 people for years. Like absolutely incredible memories, and you grow up with them. I mean, I was in such a formative time of my life, and I hope to think that I turned out, all right. So clearly the people were good enough. I'm a firm believer of you become an amalgamation of the people you surround yourself with, and I guess I'll put it this way: the person I've become has been very influenced from speedrunning and the community, and I'm very happy with who I've become. So I guess I can't say anything nicer about the community. Like I wouldn't change a single experience I've had. It's been amazing. It's been just the right amount of competition, just the right amount of friendly banter, just the right amount of shit staring when necessary, and it's
Yeah,
it's a great community. What can I say?
yeah. It's I think it's really interesting when some of the aspects of speedrunning just have like a maybe not a direct effect on your life, but like they just like teach you stuff that you're like, wait, so like this is actually like an actual skill that I learned that I could apply to something I do every day. I think that's just like very interesting. Also like the whole competitive side. And I'm kind of curious to like know, since like it's pretty known that you're a pretty big tennis fan and player, and I guess also teacher, instructor. Like, have you ever had like an experience, like a speedrunning experience, like change the way you see, like you play the game, or like you think about the game, or whatever, or like even I guess even like probably on the teaching side, like maybe teaching new players.
Heaps. It's like I always think about it in a triangle. For me, in high school or when I was a speedrunner, so I think back to high school, there was 3 big things for me, right? There was my speedrunning, there was my tennis, which I was still competing at the time. I have since stopped competing because keeping up with that sucks.
Oh yeah.
And drama, actually. In like year 9, 10, I did a bit of like literal, basically drama in school, which basically was acting training. And the skills I have learnt in all 3 of those, I apply to all of them. Like the things that people don't think about. For example, when I did drama in school, learning how to stand in front of an audience of people that you don't know or even like necessarily, and just be incredibly vulnerable and like not feel nervous. I mean, being able to control your emotions and your body is skill that you learn in drama. That's obviously going to be huge for competing in tennis and competing in speedrunning. Like that's gigantic. And some of the skills I learned there, I applied immediately to speedrunning and tennis, where like one of them is like breathing techniques. How do you slow down your breathing? How do you calm yourself down? And so much of it's in your head, right? And so I learned in like year 9, right? When I was starting to speedrun, I was doing all this practice of controlling your emotions, controlling like your nervous tendencies, controlling like the way your body shakes, all this different stuff. And I'd be in the middle of a world record pace run, and I'd be hearing my teacher's words run through my head, and I'd just be going like, yep, just shut up, calm down, like breathe. And I got to a point where I could, in the space of a 15-second loading screen, I could go from the most nervous that I ever was to when I was at like the peak of my skill in terms of this ability, I suppose. In 15 seconds in one loading screen, I could go from completely top of the scales nervous to relatively manageable and calm in one loading screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge. And then, of course, I mean, I've been competing in tennis since I was like, 7. So learning how to, not fold under pressure, think not just quickly, but think accurately under pressure and be realistic with yourself, all big skills. And then the speedrunning skills that come out of it. I mean, it's so hard not to talk about the other skills which came into it, but to talk about the skills which came out. I mean, everything. Like learning that, I mean, patience, you could get really generic. You could say patience, grind, etc. All these
that's
sort
honestly,
of
to be
things.
honest, a really big one.
It's a huge one, but I
Yeah.
also think it's like, it doesn't do it service to say that. Like, you look at what a grind looks like, right? What does a day in the life of a speedrun grind look like? Wake up. Let's say it's a weekend, right? Wake up, eat, etc. Maybe work out or something. Stay physically healthy. Get on game. Practice, right? My cycle used to be I'd get up at like 8 or 9 on a weekend. I'd get up, I'd eat breakfast, I'd do like a little workout, and then I'd get on probably around 10:30, and I'd start practicing, and I wouldn't let myself do any runs until a certain time. I told myself until I had lunch, I was not allowed to do any runs or even stream. So that was at least an hour and a half of practice that I got in every single day on a weekend, or a day off.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately that's discipline, right?
Yeah, it's level of commitment.
Yeah, exactly. You're committing to this plan that you've set because you've found something which works. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to do that, right? And so obviously in tennis, it's like, well, I'm going to get there 15 minutes early. I'm going to actually do my physical on-court warm-up before I hit a ball, Otherwise, I'm going to injure myself. So it's like the skill of that discipline applies. And then it's like, okay, then you get into, you've had lunch, you've gone into your stream, and it's like, well, what am I doing? I am literally resetting the same planet over and over and over until I get out once. And then once I get out, you can't let that get to your head. You keep on playing. It's okay. And then you hope it goes far. And if it doesn't, you reset and you don't, let it get to you and you keep on going. So bang, there's number 2, right? Mental. You're not allowing external things to bother you. And that is a huge skill of mine. I think one of the reasons I succeeded in speedrunning is because I had that skill to, I'll express my emotion. I will get frustrated. I will yell, scream, swear, etc. at the game. And then 2 minutes later, generally I'm fine. If I do that for maybe 5 hours, yeah, eventually it fucking wears you down, right? But like in general, I could take that reset and I could move on. And I was like, whatever. And I didn't actually care 2 minutes later. It's the same thing. Like if someone annoys me, like a friend of mine, I'll be pissed off at them for 2 minutes. We'll talk about it. We'll sort it out. And then I moved on and I loved them. They're my best friend 5 minutes later, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's just a skill that I'm so glad I have, right? So that's that start of that grind. And then it's even like things you wouldn't think about, like recovery, right? You finish your stream. Let's say you've done a 6-hour stream. So you've played 7.5 hours now, right? So you've done an hour and a half of practice before lunch. Then you've done a 6-hour stream, right? And you're exhausted. That is physically exhausting. That is mentally exhausting. And you stop and you have to now switch off. So you have to learn how to relax, and you have to learn that you don't just stop doing these things and be fine. Your head's still in the game, and you have to learn how to take your head out of it, move on, and not think about it, because you can dwell on things too much. You can overthink things, right? And so obviously that's huge for tennis, right? You go and play a tournament. I play 10 sets in a day. I've been on court 8 hours or whatever, right? You're fucked. You are so tired after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you've got a second day, the next day of tournament matches, you can't stay there and think about it. You have to come home and you have to stop and you have to turn off and you have to do your physical recovery, whether it's massaging, stretches, etc. And you have to watch a movie, right? Or you have to have your dinner and not think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a skill that on the daily when I was speedrunning, I was practicing, right? Being able to lock in, have the discipline, lock in, try really hard, and then accept when it fails, and then turn off and move on, because you've got another chance the next time, right? And I mean, I think those are the really big three ones. Obviously, there's so many teeny tiny skills and little habits and different things that I learned. But if I think of like the biggest life altering ones, it's those ones, right? Those are the skills I use on a daily basis. Even like, you have a bad day at work and you come home and you're like, all right, I have to not think about this.
Yeah.
Right. And you just gotta switch off and you're like, all right, I'm going to put on my favorite show. And I know that I am capable of not thinking about how bad my day was for the next 2 hours, right? Until I'm ready to process it, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, those are the big skills that apply from speedrunning to tennis to everything that I do in my life.
Yeah. I think there's definitely like a lot of just important skills that if you can get out of speedrunning if you like in the right mindset. And like I can't like make the comparison to tennis or that. I mean, each one of us has like their own thing. I also want to know if Thor wants to add like something as well later. But like for me, for example, what I can think of is speedrunning taught me a lot about like being able to know when to push myself, when it's fine to quit, stuff like that. Like being able to manage your goals. For example, like I love hiking. I do that pretty often. And when you like set up like a goal that's like harder and harder, it's like, okay, I'm gonna walk for like 15 kilometers today or like something, or I'm gonna climb this mountain. I'm gonna just like do 1,000 meters of just steep trail, knowing that you're gonna do all your best to kind of achieve what you want to do. And there's also some merit to just like knowing when it's fine to quit, I guess, because sometimes you kind of have to balance. I mean, this is like through with speedrunning, and I think everything in life. You just can't spend too much time on speedrunning. You just have to manage your time pretty much, because that can always just lead to, I mean, just I guess health problems, but also just like a really bad mindset. But I think when it's done right, it can just like lead you to like to the right places, just bring a lot of realizations and just of things you should not do. And also just it teaches you a lot about other people as well, I think. You can learn a lot from someone who maybe plays the game very differently to you, or like maybe is like a completely different person. Sometimes when you interact with these people, you can just like learn a lot about things in general. Honestly, a really cool aspect of speedrunning, because at the end of the day, this is just like a competitive place. It's kind of a sport, I guess. I don't know how to define it. It's a hobby, whatever. But
esports.
Yeah. Yes, it's some kind of esport, I guess. I don't know.
It's an esport. Where the fuck is my money?
Yeah, exactly.
Soon.
But it has a lot of competition. So with everything that has competition, that also brings, competitors, goals, a lot of different things that just like can kind of be life lessons. Not gonna lie. Obviously, we're all there to like play the same game 10 hours a day, but that does leave us with something. It's not always just useless.
It's not a full waste of time. I was just mostly gonna say, when it comes to this, like in like life experience and speedrunning, all I really have to say is that I feel like school actually taught me pretty well how to like get better at learning things, and that would include if you're trying to learn how to speedrun. For example, if you're like struggling with a trick or something, I think like physics labs actually taught me that, like, okay, you want to try and like isolate variables. So if you're struggling with something, you want to like basically you want to try doing the same thing, change only one thing, like one variable, like a little bit, see if it like causes a difference. If it doesn't, you try another variable. If it does, well, then you found your issue. I feel like a lot of the things we're taught when we do other things, like it all gets carried over into speedrunning if you use
Absolutely.
it, if you decide to use it well, and vice versa. There's definitely things you can learn from like speedrunning that will carry into things like in your real life.
I'm so glad that I found another person who uses the scientific method, because I am like 100%.
It's a good method. It's a great method.
It is.
It's been tried and tested over hundreds of years, and it is the correct way to speedrun if you're going for a world record. I say that hand on my heart, 100%. Like every time I make a route, I am applying scientific method. Like down to a T. Even when I time strategies, I will eliminate every other possible variable by timing it like in the smallest little section. I'm like, yeah, this 2-second clip is 0.2 seconds faster than this one. So I'm eliminating those variables. Like it's the way I've made my entire route. It's the way I speedrun, like 100%. I'm so glad you said that. That needs to be understood by more people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was talking with some spy runners about this, and like they were talking about how there are people that will like sometimes complain about like they put a lot more hours into something more than like someone else. And I feel like all that tells me isn't that they're like worse inherently. There's no like speed runner gene. All that tells me is that they're just not practicing smarter. They're just practicing harder. Practicing harder isn't like, that's not really what you want to do. You kind of want to practice smarter, and if that's not enough, then you also practice harder also. It's not like you pick one of them. You kind of want to do both if you want to get really good.
Exactly what I was going to say, right? Like that plus it annoys me so much when I go into people's streams and I see them and they're practicing this planet and they're practicing and practicing and practicing. And I'm like, first of all, how long have you been practicing this planet? And they're like, oh, like 2.5 hours. I'm like, you haven't thought that maybe you've over practiced to the point where you're creating bad habits, first of all, and B, that you're just going through the motions and not actually thinking about what you're doing. Just looping through a planet is not practice, right?
Yeah.
Isolating the actual trick that you can't do in first an isolated situation so you get better at it, and then in context, that is practice, right? If I'm failing a specific setup, I will practice that setup in isolation with a save state or save pause, right? And then I will practice it with just the previous like 5 seconds maybe, and then I will practice it in splits, right? That is literally isolating it and then giving a little bit of context and all the context. Whereas I see people, they're like, oh, what am I failing? Oh, poking. So I'm going to loop Snivelak 100 times. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, practice poking on its own for half an hour and you'll get more out of that than looping Snivelak for 5, Like, what are you doing?
I've legit seen people like practice for hours and hours and hours, the same thing over and over, be worse
it's so annoying.
Than people who like don't practice at all. And and that's what people need to understand. It's not like that person is magically like better. I mean, I guess it is like on paper, but like the reason why that person is better is because they clearly understand more of what's going on, like of the game in general. And this is also something I want to bring up that annoys me like a lot. So, for example, in Deadlock, the main variable that people don't seem to understand is the bots. So people play the game and they're like, oh, the bots don't work, the bots are random, the bots are RNG. That pisses me off so much because it's literally not true. And I've spent a lot of time trying to understand on some level the exact way to have them behave properly. And, obviously you can't always just have the optimal thing you want all the time, because I guess it is kind of RNG a bit. I mean, they're still like AI controlled in a way, but you can manipulate the way they behave, and that's enough to like save time in the right places. And a lot of it just comes down to just the scientific method, seeing like what works, what doesn't. And sometimes it might be the stupidest thing ever that you didn't even think of. Sometimes it can literally be just like, I don't know, like for example on Cerratos I just like do a 360 around with the flail, and I know that's technically not what makes it work, but I just do that and it works most of the times to just get them to line up with the orbs they have to hack, which is kind of funny. But I think like sometimes people just have to try to understand some things before just being like, oh no, they're RNG, they're or like I'm bad at this, or I can't save time here.
You never want to turn off your brain when you're practicing. Your brain should be, in fact, the most focus when you're doing practice. I would say even more so when doing runs. When you're doing runs, you can actually kind of turn off your brain because you've already done you already built the muscle memory at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're practicing, that's like the whole building process. That's when you
you're
need to like
developing.
focus. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think when people talk about, like, as you're talking about Scary, with like when people get frustrated at people that don't practice. I used to be one of those people, and then I grew up and realized what it is.
mm-hmm.
I, for the last 2 years, have been someone that has barely practiced. Like, I would turn on stream, play for 2 hours, hope for a world record, turn off stream, and I didn't practice at any point in the day or on stream. I just turned on, warmed up for 5 minutes, played, right? But that's because, and I think what people need to understand about that is not because I don't practice, but because I have done the practice in the past. I have already developed the muscle memory to the point on, if I look at like the com golds, I look at all of those planets, all 21 or whatever it is, like all of those planets, now that they haven't changed that much in the past few years, I have done my probably 50 to 100 hours on every single strat, even like tiny strats in that, whole route. So I have spent my hundreds or thousands of hours looping and practicing and thinking to the point where I don't need to develop that muscle memory anymore. I just need to quickly warm up and get it back, and then I'm playing at full speed again, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I did the hard yards where I practiced for 8 hours straight instead of doing runs to understand how poking works when we first found it. And that's because I spent hours practicing the wall climb to figure out how to do it quicker. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like I just magically showed up from the first day I speedrun this game and never practiced, because I would never get anywhere if I did that. But I got to a point where I understood what I feel to be pretty much everything about the no IMG route. You could ask me why I do almost anything, and I will give you an answer. And because I have that understanding, I can just jump on and play.
Yeah.
And I know Franskor is another example of someone that people get frustrated. It's like, bro, he never practices. That man used to practice hours. I remember in like 2018, same as me, when he was on the come up, he would practice 12 hours straight, and you wouldn't catch him doing a run, right? It's just that he's done the hard yards and now he's there. He's got the muscle memory already.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also kind of a misconception, because I think like people just kind of see practice as, just getting the muscle memory, just like remembering what you have to do. But I think people forget sometimes that practice is kind of like a moment when you're also like just supposed to learn and learn more about what can you do, what you should be doing. Look at the tiniest things and just like wonder, okay, can I make this like quicker? Or like, why do I have to do this way? Is there another way to do it? Is there something I prefer doing? There's always so many things that you could, do in practice until like you figure out what works for you and what you want to do and how to do it in the most optimal way possible.
Which is also why I say to people, practice can be looking at Com Gold and World Record.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it just should be expanding your knowledge. It's not necessarily playing the game. It is making you better, and making you better means getting more knowledge. And knowledge is, looking at Com Golds. That's why I tell everyone, please highlight your Com Golds, because they are the single best utility to learn off for mid to high level players.
Yes. Sometimes you can get like knowledge out of the most, unexpected thing. Literally yesterday, or like 2 days ago. So I've just like recently, like last week, I got world record for co-op in OLC with the Robo, and I was just like, I wanted to go back to the grind. Because I still wanted 39 in that category in solo, and I was just like, why do I not like just do what I do in co-op here? Wouldn't that be faster? Because I remember like playing Char, for example, on Mission 2, which is like the one that everybody hates, by the way, the one with the cranks. In solo, what I've always done, I've always just commanded the bots to just like do all 4 nodes and then called it a day. But I was like, in co-op, I just do the last one like myself by just killing the enemies, which is pretty fast. Why do I not just do that so I don't have to rely on the bot cycle? And funnily enough, I just tried that and it worked. It saved like about 4 seconds, which is kind of big. I even like went back to the segmented Mobius made. And funny enough, that's what he does in some of the levels. But at the time, probably when I watched it, I didn't even realize, because I was just like, so sure that was like the way to go. Like, of course, like just have the bots do it, because they're gonna teleport there, or like they're gonna be faster than you, or you're gonna get hit off by the enemies. But sometimes it's as simple as just like throwing 2 mines, or like placing a turret, and that just shaves off.
It really
a bunch
can
of
be
seconds.
just that simple. Like just being willing to learn things. It bothers me so much when you get those runners that have a PB that's like 2 years old. They're like, no, I'll learn new things when I get the PB. I'm like, what? Why? Why wouldn't you learn them now? Like, learn them now, get a PB, and then keep pushing to the new possible limit. Why would you anchor yourself back by like months when you can learn it now, get the PB, and then keep pushing even further now because you've learned it earlier? Like, I don't know. There's a few people that are like that, and I've never understood it ever.
I can maybe understand if it's like, a beginner, like there's like an overwhelming amount of stuff to learn.
Or like, I'm talking about players that are like high level.
Oh yeah. No, in that case,
learn new things.
Yeah, no, in that case, you're absolutely right, because it is kind of what makes a really good speedrunner, being able to, have this kind of mindset, being able to like learn in the right way.
You have to take it like just about as seriously as like anything else in real life, to be honest. Otherwise, you're not gonna get the results. It's also important, like while we're on this, like maintaining a healthy lifestyle. You know how people talk about like, oh, in order to learn better, you need to like make sure you're sleeping well, eating well. I mean, all that stuff also applies for like everything, including speedrunning. But some people will just like degen. They play like 12 hours. There's like nowhere you're gonna learn anything off of that. Your brain will not be able to process that. You might like deprive yourself of sleep. That's also gonna grief all the possible things you could have learned.
It's like people, as you say with the sleep thing, it's like people are trying to get their PB or a world record when they're running on like a 0.3 slower reaction time because they're running on 3 hours of sleep. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's a big one that I always like took from tennis, where it's like, well, I'm not going to play good tennis because I'm not going to react. I'm not going to move if I don't have my 8 hours. It was actually a hard one for me because I was a mild insomniac, which always pissed me off, but it made me understand.
I relate to that so much.
I think so many speedrunners do, unfortunately. It's just the niche of us. But it's like, because of that, I was like, I understood it so much. I'm like, I'm going to look after everything. And then when I see people going like, they'll finish stream at like, before I go to bed. Or sorry, after I go to bed, and I'll wake up and they'll have started streaming like an hour ago. I'm like, that means you got like 4 hours of sleep, man. Like, that's not good. Like, of course you're playing like shit. You know what I mean? And then they're wondering why they're not getting PBs. And it's like, well, you're not looking after yourself.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You need to just be like generally just like a good state of mind for it to work well, and kind of go in the the way you want it to go. Aside from this, I'm actually curious to like ask you, like, to you, what kind of makes RaC 2 like RaC 2? Why, like, for example, Ouya did not like feel right to speedrun?
I guess there's a lot of ways to get into this question. When it comes down to like speedrunning other games, some of it was that just like, as we said, I don't always feel like learning new things. Once I forgot to a point where I'd learned enough about Ratchet 2. I wanted to learn more things about Ratchet 2. Learning Ratchet 2 things excited me. But sitting down and going like, all right, I'm going to watch a world record and like go planet by planet. I don't know. The process bored me. I just didn't want to learn new ones. But even for games that I knew, when I sat down, none of them just have the same flow as Ratchet 2. I love in Ratchet 2 that, unlike in Ouya, because people often compare them, right? They're like, what do I actually prefer about RaC 2 compared to Ouya? In Ouya, to do most tech, you need to be holding a specific weapon. Like whip jumps are whip, not wrench, right? That already locks you out of being able to flow as nicely. Insta whips are so convoluted. Like in Ouya, you can do a lot of the same things as you can in RaC 2, but they're not as punchy, or the inputs are more convoluted. Like insta whips, why would I want to do that when I can just spam X or spam square? Like, is it easier in RaC 2? Sure, there's harder tech in RaC 2 as well, but like that's what I mean. Like things in Ouya feel like if I'm achieving the same result, just for the sake of, I don't know, randomness, like some stupid reason, I have to do 10 extra inputs. Like, why would I want to do that? Like mid-air charges. same inputs, but you just have a 50% chance to drop. Like, why would I enjoy that?
Yeah.
But even when it comes down to like the way the movement flows, I love in RaC 2 where it's sort of like I can charge, wrench swing to change direction, and then immediately recharge with no delay, and then decoy proxy up a wall, quick switch, and then I'm like, doing some decoy movement. Like it flows into each other so quickly, without it feeling like I'm doing inputs for the sake of inputs, which it does in Ouya. Like the difficulty in RaC 2 comes from the fact that it is so rigid. Like the optimal line, if I charge 5 degrees off, in Ouya I can just turn, right? Mid-charge. In RaC 2, if I've charged 5 degrees off, I might have just fucked my entire planet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that rigidity. I love that I have to be flawless to make the planets work, because I'm a perfectionist. That's how I like things to be, right? And that thing which makes RaC 2 easier in a lot of people's minds, or used to anyway. I know that's not the stigma anymore. People aren't stupid, but that is the very thing which makes it so hard. The fact that there are so many potential backups means that the optimal run is still going to be the one without the backups, which means you have to play flawlessly, right? You can't just accept that you had a slightly bad charge angle. Like, no, you have to get better at having the perfect charge angle every time. And you have to get better at quick switching. Weapon management. I know Ouya players complain about weapon management. You don't even know anything compared to RaC 2 weapon management. 2 weapons, store a swing shot the whole time, go. Like, whilst you're playing the whole game. Like, that is really cool to me. Everything about it is just like perfect. Any one of these things could have been not true and the whole experience would be a bit worse. But to me, it's just like a perfect culmination. I love that I can have my wrench out, tap circle, and I've got my decoy out, and now I'm proxying, and then I'm wrench swinging to cancel the proxy, and I'm doing 100 other things midair. And I love that I can, for example, I've got this crazy smog route. This is sort of like back on that old question, what could I do to make smog faster? Well, in theory, if it comes to it, I could do a swing shot storage all the way up to smog, and then do a clankless swing shot proxy into 16 midair charges to skip 5 seconds. Like, that's a thing that I could do. It's theoretically possible. So it's like, I love that where Ouya sort of has a hard cap, you reach a point where you really can't do much else. RaC 2 exponentially keeps on getting harder. There's always that extra Taz strat that we don't do. You know what I mean? Like, even in Ouya, it's like, well, all the times where you do a midair charge in RaC 2, because you have to, you just have Clank. And Clank makes things so much easier to save. I mean, people talk about going into first person as being easy. You can't do that often anymore in 2025. It doesn't exist. Like, most of the time, if you charge and you need FPM, you're just dead. Like, whereas in Ouya, it feels like, you can glide, you can fix your angle, you can do whatever. And I kind of don't like that. Like, the very fact that RaC 2 is more rigid than Ouya is exactly why it's more fluid and why it's more fun.
That's really interesting. Yeah, there are definitely cases where just like the restrictions just making it like
exactly like
for a better experience.
The restrictions are what makes it fast, what makes it hard, and what makes it smoother. Like, it sounds counterintuitive, but the restrictions equal smooth because you have to play smooth.
I think we're reaching like the end of the episode, and I have, I guess, like one last question. I mean, I guess a couple. I mean, one of them is like actually the reason why, we wanted you as like one of the first people on this, because I remember like when, how long ago was it now? You made like your own podcast with like other Ratchet runners.
Yes. Like 2 or 3 years ago now. Yeah.
Damn, that's insane. I remember watching that and it was like really good. And it's not like, I don't want to say like it inspired what we're going for here, because kind of like did set a bit of like the expectation of like what we should and what we shouldn't do. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what was like the main idea behind it, and what were like, I guess, like your goal with that. I remember watching it and like being like flabbergasted. It was just like really interesting, and I hope that with this we can do the same.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, I just like there was multifactored. Some of it was at the time I actually started doing it off memory. I had finished like a grind. I had finished what I thought would probably be the last good no IMG grind for a while. Little did I know that Lap Skip was ready to slap me around the face like 2 months later. But like, in my head, I was like, shit, I have pretty much finished with everything that will ever be in this game, was what I was thinking. And I was like, yeah, I was in that sort of state of nothing we talked about before. It's like, what do I do? And I was like, I still love this game, and I love sitting down and just talking about this game and playing this game and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, and you know what? I just like talking about it. And I think that I have a lot of knowledge to share, I guess. I've got this like ideal video that I want to make where I go through the entire no IMG run, like planet by planet, and I explain every little half-second decision. But I've never made it because I know that it would be like an 8-hour video. But like, I guess it was sort of my little way of still getting some of my knowledge out there, and also trying to just give some content to a community which gave me so much as well. Like, this community, as we talked about before, really has done so much for me. And so I was like, well, they deserve something. I can't have been supported to this point just to get my records and leave. You know what I mean? Like, that's not enough. I have to do more. And I knew that I was starting to work more at that time. I didn't have heaps of time, and I thought, you know what? I can just put in some episodes where I get, you know, people that have knowledge to share, I think, and do the exact same thing where we just talk and we get through a whole bunch of content that way. You know what I mean? Like I ended up doing 4 episodes. I was trying to look for my playlist there, and everyone that I chose was someone that I just wanted to talk to because I thought they would have a lot to share, and it would create a conversation which would, hopefully teach someone something, you know, maybe an up and coming speedrunner could learn something from it, but also use it as sort of like a method to encourage people in some senses. I know that at that point, Emeralv, he'd been getting his first couple of PS3 records and was sort of struggling for some confidence. And I was like, I just want to get him on this show and tell him that I think that he is the guy that is the next me and is going to be the next Ratchet 2 guy. And I just want to get him on the show and A, just get to talk to him because it's interesting, and B, just sort of, you know, hype him up and make him realize that he can be what he wants to be. I really think he is that guy. So there's so many reasons, and I hope that I at least achieved some of them with my videos. But at the end of the day, I just ran out of time to stop recording it. You know, I got to a point where I signed a full-time contract, and I just didn't have time to find 2 hours a week or fortnight to, you know, sit down and talk speedrunning. And so unfortunately I had to sort of stop, but I loved making it, and I would love to, you know, keep on doing more. I just haven't found the time, I guess.
Makes sense. And, you know, I think like you definitely like achieved some of your goals with that, because I think I've heard like new runners, even like people that were around for those, like maybe mention, oh yeah, I've heard that from like Fierce podcast, which is kind of funny because
that's sick.
You know, I think any content about the Ratchet community is great content, even though like I don't know if we can really call this content. It's more like, you know, just sharing like knowledge and like opinions. I know that with this podcast, at least how I see it, like the main goal is to just kind of like shed some light on like some of the people of our community, because I think each one of us has a great story to tell and comes with a great package of just like opinions, knowledge, and like just a lot of things you can learn. Thought it would be cool to just put it out there, and it's been really fun so far. So
more content, as you say, is always better, and like more people having being given, I guess, the platform to just express the things which need saying. You know, there's so many questions you asked me here which were great, which I didn't even realize were things that I wanted to say on like public record, that I guess because I haven't been running or haven't been streaming, I haven't found a good time to, you know what I mean? So 100%, I appreciate that, and I think other people will too.
Yeah. before I let you go, one, I guess, pretty open-handed question, you can answer like however you want, like, what's next for you? Like, whatever like that means to you. Just like it could be about speedrunning, it could be like about anything else.
Yeah, it's always a hard question, isn't it? I wish I knew. I mean, right now, I guess if people want a life update, I'm working more and more hours every week, it seems, and just trying to save and, build up a savings, because I'm saving for a house. I want to move out. I want to move in to a new place with my partner. Not married or engaged, but hopefully at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep it on the hush hush, as they say. And yeah, I guess that's the big ones. I want to just progress my life. I guess people want to know if I'm going to be speedrunning more. I know that I get that DM a lot, and I guess I have to let everybody down and say that unfortunately I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm not, because I know what I'm like. In 3 months, something will pop up that crops my interest in RaC 2, and I'll be back, I'm sure. I always am every time I think I'm done. But I have to admit to everyone, I've been more and more thinking about, like, have I done my last speedrun? Just because, man, it's exhausting. I come home from work and all I want to do is play my racing sim and play Minecraft, and that's about it. So, yeah, I know people want me to say that I'm going to jump on and do the 15 grind, and in theory, I'd love to, but I can't promise that at the moment. But what I can promise is that I'm not going to leave the community, man. I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be keeping up with things because I love it, and I love just knowing what these games are doing. Even if it's only once a month, I like to pop in and say hi in someone's stream and see what kind of records are being broken. And I guess part of what's next for me is I'd love to hand the torch on to someone else. I would really like for whoever it is, Robo, Emerald, they're my big two at the moment that I think are absolutely incredible speedrunners, and
I agree.
I would love for them to take my records and do more than I ever did with them. I would love for them to make my legacy look like just a footnote in the history of this game. So, I want them to have full confidence and just pop in and take my seat, as you say, really the future of RaC 2, I don't think it sits with me. That's the honest truth. I would like, frankly, to move on. I still love playing the game, but I would really like to be able to sit back and watch someone else hold the reins for a while. Yeah,
that would be honestly great to see. And if one day you're gonna be back, that's also something to look forward to. But I think so the Ratchet community, just like notice, just people just end up like coming back to it, whether it's like for speedrunners or just like to talk to people, because I generally think it's an important place for a lot of people, just like all the connections you can make here and stuff. But whether or not you're gonna be back, I guess we'll see. I mean, all we can do is, to be honest, wish you the best, because you've been like honestly one of the best runners we've had for the series, just in general. And seeing you like do like a lot of like the most insane grinds and achieve crazy times that were thought of as impossible, it's been really great. So we can just like hope that things go well for you, and I guess you just like achieve what you want to achieve and do what you feel like doing. And it's great just knowing that you'll stick around, because I mean, it's always nice just the social aspect to it, just like still like having like the old heads like around today, like Zam, Scotto. There's like a few people that pop in every once in a while, and even like if it's people that don't talk very often, it's always nice like seeing people that like kind of, I guess in a way it's kind of like recognizing like the importance that Ratchet speedrunning, as funny as it might seem, like how important it was for you, that you like you're still like willing to stick around even if you're not doing runs necessarily. And I guess we'll see what that means for the future of RaC 2. So
you're gonna make me tear up. That's some of the nicest things I've ever heard. Thank you for saying that. I'm genuinely getting a bit teary-eyed over here, man. God damn.
I don't know. It's just kind of what I think, but yeah, we can like thank you for like this amazing episode. Honestly, it was really interesting, and yeah, well, I think we can end it here and hope to see you next time. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll have you back at some point. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you, man. It's been a really fun time just chatting to you guys. Like, look, I'll put it this way: even if I'm not super active, I'm keeping up with the things that are going on. And look, if you want to get on and spit some knowledge about how to play RaC 2 faster, fuck yeah, I'm on here. Mate, shoot me a message, I'll be on.
Yes, let's go. Hell yeah. So yeah, thank you everybody for sticking around with us. If you made it this far, and I guess we'll see you in the next episode. So goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.